hockey talk in there. Just for good natured. But I'll tell you what. Joining us now on the program knows this person knows a little something about the Kings, and I'm not talking about the Los Angeles Kings as I am talking about the Sacramento Kings, or should I say the new Seattle Supersonics. Joining us on the program now is Commando Dave. Good morning, Commando. How you doing?
Hey, good morning, Steve. Good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How's everything treating you over there on the east side of the state?
Yeah, man. Pretty rainy, a little bit snowy, but all good. What you know, Bo?
Well, I know that Jason Grilli is not going to be a very good closer. I know that. Really?
I don't know what that means, but I'm going to take your word for it.
Oh yeah. So long time. So here's the inside joke. Long time journeyman. The journeyman pitcher Jason Grilli, who's bounced around from team to team to team in his major league career, has finally gotten an opportunity to be a closer. Now, albeit it's on the Pittsburgh Pirates. And last week we were doing a fantasy baseball preview show, and I put him in the top 10 of fantasy closers. Ever since then, Bo has really been giving me nothing but crap about it. So that was the Jason Grilli reference, right?
There you go. Nice.
So, very interesting week.
Wait a minute, you got Brandon there with you too?
No, we have Ames, John Ames.
Okay, what's up, John?
He's here.
Hey, what's going on?
That's John, Dave, John. Okay. So,
a fraternity mixer.
Exactly. We'll all meet by the Phi Kappa Delta house. So, anyway, so Dave, very interesting week. As a matter of fact, this just broke last night. And I rushed to get you on the program today to get your first initial thoughts about this. David Stern basically came out and said, listen, the Seattle group that has interest in purchasing the Sacramento Kings has officially filed for relocation. So obviously that's one step that's closer. And what's interesting about this, I know that you keep your finger on this pulse quite a bit. What were your first initial reactions when you actually heard that David Stern really kind of put the official touch from the NBA standpoint on Chris Hansen, Steve Ballmer group trying to move the Kings north?
Well, pretty much the same as they always have been, Steve. This is a deal with just a lot of moving parts. It's kind of like being at the blackjack table and the dealer hits on soft and hard 17. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You don't know which way to play your cards. And so to that end, I really see this more as the formality. There are deadlines and whatnot in terms of, all the different stipulations on how this thing can go. And so just one of them, that's been met now is the application for the relocation. Now, of course, they have a signed agreement, but another one of the working parts, of course, is the minority ownership. And then as a working part within that working part, you guys, is the bankruptcy with which he finds himself in, and 7% stake in the team coming into play. And then as a result of that, another working part being the first right of refusal of the minority ownership. So, basically the commissioner is just doing his due diligence and as a responsibility as the commissioner of the National Basketball Association by making the announcement. Is the way I see it. How about you?
Well, what's interesting about this is I don't think the first right of refusal is really going to be an issue. And my whole thing is, I really don't like to take things for face value, and especially words in these type of situations, they can be misconstrued and taken two different ways. But the one thing that I will say is there's two things that really kind of stick with me. Is number one, I don't think that the NBA would allow the Hansen Ballmer group to get this far along in the process, and all of a sudden pull the rug underneath from them. And the second thing is I don't think that Hansen and Ballmer would ever get into an agreement where something like the first right of refusal would put a hamper into their deal, regardless of how much kicking and screaming Kevin Johnson's going to do from the outside.
You make a good point, and I couldn't agree more. But as powerful as David Stern thinks he is as the commissioner of the National Basketball Association, and with as much power as he does wield, once you get things into bankruptcy court, those are situations that are pretty much out of his hands and do then come down to legalities, and those legalities within the the jurisdiction with which they fall. In this particular instance, state of California. The flip side of it, though, is in relation to what you just said, Steve. It goes along with what I was saying the last time I was on with you guys, that David Stern finds himself in quite a predicament. That being, as the NBA commissioner, this guy has done every single thing over the years because this thing has played out in Sacramento. That's why they're first on the auction block, so to speak. This thing has played out over a number of years, and over those years, we've seen David Stern just step up as Big Brother David and do everything he can do for the city of Sacramento to keep the Kings there. Then, of course, in Seattle, we saw Little Brother David do zero to keep the Sonics in Seattle, and so as he now has announced in imminent, and we talk about a moving part here, now that he's announced his retirement date and the time is ticking, this guy he's like Dorothy in the Wicked Witch's castle with the sand running down the hourglass, because on the one end, this guy who has made that hardcore reputation for himself as loving to be the villain, wearing the black hat, he is now trying to ride out into the sunset as a guy wearing two white hats for each representing Seattle and Sacramento. So I think that leads us to a lot of the talk that we've been hearing lately about expansion.
And ideally that would be the perfect situation. But then again, there hasn't been any type of innuendo that expansion could be on the forefront. As a matter of fact, it's the complete opposite. I've been reading and I've been hearing that, and speaking, especially talking with some people that have some knowledge that of the workings of the National Basketball Association, that we're at least another 5 years before we can even talk about possibly expanding, just because we have no idea how this new CBA is going to play out over the life of 5 years when in regards to some of these smaller market teams, and just having the lead back on stable ground. But I will ask you this question because it's it was something that I've been meaning to ask you. Is we know that David Stern has really does like the idea of Steve Ballmer being an owner in the National Basketball Association. And if you can remember, he asked him to purchase the Detroit Pistons a while back. Obviously, he said no. It wasn't the most ideal situation, and now all of a sudden he's a part of this ownership group with Chris Hansen, trying to bring the NBA back to Seattle. But there's one thing about this that really kind of sticks in my craw, because we saw exactly this eclectic group of owners that David Stern represents the first time around back in 2008. And this time around, there is not going to be a separate tease between the Board of Governors and the Relocation Committee. David Stern has lumped that all together, and they're going to be voting back on this in April. Is there any concern with you about this NBA Board of Governors or Relocation Committee, considering the guy that's heading it is the guy that took our team out of town 5 years ago in Clay Bennett? Is there any worrisome that he might have some personal vendetta against the city of Seattle, or maybe there's there's going to be some type of situation where all of a sudden it just looked like a landslide the last time around when it came to the city and this team?
Well, I wouldn't say anything about personal vendetta or anything, Steve, but what I will point to is what I've pointed to every single time you and I have ever talked about this, that being the settlement agreement, MOU, dated July 2nd, 2008, between the City of Seattle and the Professional Basketball Club, LLC, a.k.a. Clayton Bennett, a.k.a. the OK Corral Crew. And so the reason that I've continued to pound this drum is because of the language that is contained therein, it has always just surprised, I say surprised, but really more astonished me of how these curveballs get by the city attorney, the mayor, and ultimately voted on by the Seattle City Council. And in that, like I said, there's because of the fact that Clayton Bennett was granted, along with a time frame for performance on the City of Seattle side, but was just granted some very ridiculous concessions in terms of the Seattle Sonics name, memorabilia, history, colors, logo, all of that. And to that end, I see that coming into play because as the head of the committee, then of course he knows all the stipulations that come into play. And one that's curious that no one's really talking about, and really no one talks about this type of stuff, besides me anyway, in terms of really the inside of the inside, talking with the insider, Steve himself, on this type of thing. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
One of the smoking gun, I keep talking about paragraph 6, which I was just now referencing, but when you really get down to it, paragraph 4 is really the smoking gun, and that's why the city of Seattle is just as well willing to sweep that first MOU under the carpet, not have the team play in a renovated Key Arena, which are the stipulations that you can call the team the Sonics, have the team be down in Soto, create this new, complex, if you will, because that way the city of Seattle gets $30 million. If you remember, this deal started off as a $75 million deal. They got $45 million up front. They had that press conference where everybody was, giggly and giddy and, hands shaking and back slapping. And then there was a 5-year window that we're counting down to now on the Sonics Mayan calendar that there were 3 stipulations that that kicked in that they get the other $30 million. Beg your pardon?
I said, did you say the Sonics Mayan calendar?
I've got a picture of it on my Sonics MIA Facebook page. Oh yeah,
that is beautiful.
We're counting down to July 2nd, 2013, my friend. And don't you think for a minute that the ramifications don't play in? Because the $30 million that the city gets for not having the team play in Key Arena, the city to me doesn't care if it's called the Sonics or the Kings, I think, because they get this.
No, they don't.
They get this $30 million, and when the non-refundable $30 million figure came up with in this deal, it just really raised I wouldn't say a red flag, but a light bulb of, that's an interesting figure given the fact that paragraph 4 stipulates that the city of Seattle gets $30 million based on this team not playing in Key Arena, therefore not being called the Sonics, and Clayton Bennett is the one who pretty much is pulling those strings.
Well, hopefully your Sonics calendar will be a little bit more effective and accurate than the actual Mayan calendar.
Actually,
well, I want to ask you about this. Is there any, and correct me if I'm wrong. Is there any tie to that date of July? You said it was July 13th, 2013.
July 2nd.
Being that July 2nd, I beg your pardon. As being that deadline where isn't there a stipulation, a part of that agreement, that memorandum of understanding that whoever purchases a team, if there is a future team that is involved, that there's like a deadline cutoff of of when they can purchase back the history, the naming, the history, lineage, the rights, the championships, the banners, basically the intellectual property.
Right.
We had that conversation. I think we had this conversation a while back about it's one thing to have the city have retain the team name, but the trademark, the actual trademark of intellectual property, remains with Clayton Bennett and the Oklahoma City Thunder, and yet he doesn't necessarily really care about the Sonic history, lineage, and anything like that. But then again, there is a date set to that, and I got to be perfectly honest. The Sacramento Kings is nice. Having a basketball team in Seattle is nice, Dave, but having a team, basically a team name, having the team name and having the colors means nothing if you can't celebrate the things that made the Sonic organization great for 41 years prior. It makes no sense.
Well, you're preaching to the choir. You're preaching good, so I'll give you an amen. And to that point, Steve, let's just take the championship trophy for starters. Okay. Now, every year since the Sonics have left or have been gone, I've thrown a '79 championship Sonic celebration at Floyd's Place there in Queen Anne. All right.
Yeah.
Now this past year, I wanted to have the trophy there so people can take pictures with it and that type of thing. And the reason we didn't have the trophy there, and the reason we wound up not actually having the party, because I wasn't in a mood to celebrate after I got this news, that I had to contact one of the vice presidents. Even though the trophy is over at the Seattle Museum of Industry and History, I had to contact the vice president of the Oklahoma City Thunder to get permission to use that trophy, and I just was not going to do that as a staunch Seattle SuperSonics fan. And so when you say that that stuff is irrelevant to Clayton Bennett, if it was irrelevant to Clayton Bennett, there's no reason for it to even be in the agreement between him and the city of Seattle. And then cut to the chase in terms of the Cleveland Browns situation. Give it up to the Baltimore Ravens winning the Super Bowl, but the Cleveland Browns, they had that contractually worked out to where everything Cleveland Browns, Art Modell was more than welcome to take the team, but to Baltimore, but everything in terms of the Cleveland Browns remained in Cleveland, and they made sure of that. And again, the way that this MOU is written, that is not the identical case for the city of Seattle and Seattle SuperSonic fans.
And that's why I asked you about the vendetta earlier, because again, if you just brought up a very good point about the Cleveland Browns, and I would probably be more. I'm going to say I'm about 99.9% sure that when the Kings do move to Seattle, it will just be in team, and it will not be in name, it will not be in history, it will not be in color. It will be, all that will remain. The intellectual property will remain in Sacramento, because as you said, I mean, if there's a time down the road where they can get expansion, and they keep that group together for a possible expansion down the road, then they will have the King name, the King lineage. But the team will be residing in Seattle as our history will be restored. Those type of things. It's that type of I guess you can say, what's the word I'm looking for? It's that type of action of a guy like Clay Bennett that makes me think that there is a vendetta, because again, if you and we know this as being when we see things like the All Thunder team, and you see Sean Kemp and you see Gary Payton, you see ESPN do things like this is their the Thunder's first championship appearance since 1996, those type of things. Those type of and then the ability of wanting to show the trophy, but you have to ask permission. Those type of actions, or a guy that really wants to stick it to a city that really did nothing but support it before you moved it. Those type of things where you never really see these type of things in any type of situation, and to a point where now you're holding history, somebody's intellectual property against them, and put a date on it. To me, that screams to me, childish and almost vindictive.
Well, keep in mind, as I said, Steve, not only did he put a date on it, he also put a price on it. And again, that's where the $30 million comes into play. And that's why, again, I've been pounding this drum, because all of these moving parts, as I said at the top, come into play with each other. And so as the head of the relocation committee, it doesn't even have to really be a vendetta, man. It can just be a straight business thing, where Clayton Bennett says, hey, look, here's the agreement that I have. Because really, when it comes down to it, it's not going to be Clayton Bennett. This is going to be Clayton Bennett's attorneys. And they're going to make sure that he enforces this agreement. And so if he's paying $30 million per and put it this way, you think the city of Seattle isn't waiting for that $30 million? Okay? Okay, so the city of Seattle is waiting for that $30 million. Clayton Bennett is the one that's going to have to cut that check. And based on him cutting that check, he has the poison pills in there that you know, that I know, that I know, that you know, that I know, and we all know. If I cut this $30 million check, I own the Sonics. Lock, stock, and barrel, and I'm going to relocate the Kings up here as the head of the relocation committee. Now, do we have a deal or not? That's how this thing's, to me, as I see it playing out. And man, I've said it before, I've said it again, I said it many times on the John Clayton Show, man. I never wanted to be wrong on anything like this before in my life. So I just hope that I'm dead wrong on how this plays out. But as a sports fan activist, we're coming up on 15 years of WeTheFans.com, the official sports fan union, and I specialize in what I call poly sports biz. That's the politics and business squeezing sports on both sides. To me, man, this is
All right, John Ames-esque. Before we let you go, Dave, I want to, not only are we going to get into where our fans and listeners can find you on the web, but when, I guess the most important question that I have for you is, when are we going to have that celebration at Boyd's Place? Is it going to be after the April deadline, when the Board of Governors approves it? And also approves the sale and also approves the relocation? Is that when we're going to have the welcome back celebration at Boyd's Place in Lower Queen Anne, or is it going to be maybe the day before the home opener in 2013, 2014? When is Commando Dave and WeTheFans.com going to have the welcome back party, so I can tell everybody to show up in their green and gold?
Commando Dave, point man of the fans revolution at WeTheFans.com. The official sports fan union since 1999, and head of the mafia, that's mad as hell fans in America, will throw a Sonics, and I forgot, home of the Sonics MIA campaign at SeattleSonicsMIA.com, will throw a welcome home Sonics party directly after the first home game, that I'm there and I see the team run out on the court in green and gold with the Sonics on the floor. When I see it, I'm going to believe it, and the party will be right after that game.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to have to coordinate and get together on that one, because as far as I'm concerned, my schedule has already been circled. The home opener, the first time the Oklahoma City Thunder come back in, and also the first night the Portland Trail Blazers are in town, because those three to me are the cornerstones. Will be the cornerstones of my first season. So
right.
It's going to be fun. But Dave, I want to thank you for stopping by and shedding some light on this situation. Your opinion on this matter is always welcome, and can't wait to get you back on sooner.
Yeah, right on, Steve. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Same with you, Bo.
Take it easy, Dave. I'll try and learn some more for the next time you're here.
Roger that, my man. John, good talking to you, buddy.
All right, Dave. Take it easy, sir.
Okay, you guys too. Thank you.